2021, the future is here, and with it, the method of transport we've all been waiting for. Biodegradable buses drawn by cyborg horses. No, the Hyperloop is here. The Hyperloop is a levitating pod inside a tube. More specifically, a vacuum tube. How does the pod levitate? It's magnets, it's magnets, it's magnets. Yes, it's magnets. The severe repulsion of the two magnets against each other, like two women wearing the same dress, means that the pod will levitate off the track by about 4 inches. It's not 4 inches, that's clearly 6. Now this happens inside a vacuum tube. When I first heard this, I was like, oh right, you get in one end, you get sucked through the tube, you come out the other end, cloud of dust, bit of hair, maybe you can hear a penny rattling somewhere. They mean the tube is a vacuum, like in outer space. They suck all the air out the tube. So there's no air friction, no ground friction. It is capable of supersonic speeds inside the pipe. I'd still prefer a cyborg horse. The makers of the Hyperloop are guessing and theorising that they could reach speeds of up to 1,220 kilometres an hour. You can go from London to Birmingham in 9 minutes. The Hyperloop is being touted as a public transport system for England. I don't think they really know what they're letting themselves in for. I'm the public, you're the public, and let's be honest, we've probably all done things we are not proud of. The public are a group of people who voted to call a boat Boaty McBoatface. That's what you're dealing with. After the first Hyperloop journey, that carriage will be full of used takeaway cartons, discarded newspapers, and somebody will have pissed in a bin. A group of drunk English people getting on one Hyperloop pod are going to wreck that thing in the 9 minutes it does take to get to Birmingham. Welcome to the Pinterloop pub crawl! Stop eating.
Sarah's just snogged that bloke in the car seat.
Pinterloop. Okay, everybody, get back on the loop. Everybody here. This is moving a bit fast for me. Oh.
Alright, whoa, is this the bacon? I've got bacon, egg, double bacon.
They want to build pipes that will be about 400 miles long, for example, connecting London to Edinburgh. They've got to build the pipe. Now, we all know it's a lot cheaper to build a pipe above ground than it is to build a pipe underneath the ground. One of the suggested routes was to connect Gatwick and Heathrow airports. But even when I had a cursory glance at the map and drew a line between the two, you would have to build that pipe through the Surrey Hills area of outstanding natural beauty.
Oi, don't park right there!
2 huge gleaming pipes will only stay gleaming for so long. They are going to be covered in graffiti, bird shit, and the natural rusting elements of the atmosphere. Of course, it would be ideal to put the pipes underground. There is a massive issue with digging underground in the UK due to the amount of historical sites that are buried underneath. The Chinese government have just, they want to build a new embassy. And they've bought the old Royal Mint. Nice. Underneath that is some kind of abbey which has lots and lots and lots of remains of plague victims. The Chinese government, in creating their new embassy, want to dig down into the abbey and the dead plague victims so that they can build underground meeting rooms. Yeah, that's where I'd put a meeting room. Underground. Quite often, a big project will be derailed, literally, in the case of HS2, the high-speed rail project, which has suffered massive delays because of digging up graves at Euston. England is full of Edwardian abbeys, Victorian whorehouses.
Ye oldie cock-gobble house, come in. Dost thou wish to have thy knob rotted?
People have regularly had to hold up their expensive projects just because they've discovered like a Roman market hall or a Saxon jazz cafe. The pods are being designed to hold 28 people at a time. That is barely a minibus full of West Ham supporters with absolutely no room for their scarves, pasties or beer kegs. That's not public transport. Apparently it's because it's to do with the weight of the pod and how much force it will exert when it's travelling at huge speeds through this vacuum tube. They don't want the pod and the movement of the pod to rupture or damage the pipe it's travelling in. 28 people at a time is not going to cope with peak commuter traffic. They're saying pods will go every 4 minutes because public transport never has any delays. You also need to make room for prams, people who are disabled. Just because the Hyperloop journey time is short, it does not mean that the queues will be. I suggest if you really want to make this speedy, you need to eliminate the boarding process altogether. I think the Hyperloop should have just a great big funnel. Maybe they could make a big seat that goes around it, and you sit on the edge and then you just plop into like the funnel, land in this like cushioned capsule, and you all just fall in together, plop, 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 plop. The cushioned capsule just seals and you get flushed down the pipe. You can't actually go inside the Hyperloop. What do you mean I can't go inside? I've got my rubber ring and everything. This flume's rubbish. Inside the pipe, the atmosphere is 0.015 psi. So let's look at the London to Edinburgh route. That's a 400-mile long pipe, and all 400 miles of that pipe needs to be kept at 0.015 psi. But that also means that the weight of the atmosphere will be pressing down on the whole length of pipe. That's okay, as long as the pipe holds its integrity.
To better illustrate these numbers, the atmospheric pressure around us is 14.7 psi. This vacuum pump is sucking air out the tanker, lowering its internal pressure. Spoiler alert, this tanker is about to rupture, and at that moment the pressure inside will be 1.5 psi. So just to remind you, the pressure inside the Hyperloop will be even lower at 0.015 psi. Ugh.
Put it this way, I don't think the Queen is going to launch the Hyperloop by smashing a bottle on the side. As with anything that involves coming and going and a speedy finish, you need to maintain integrity of the shaft. There's something excitingly grim about the science of the Hyperloop. If you imagine that a plane flies at 10 kilometers up and it flies through much thinner air than what we have down here at the bottom, the Hyperloop vacuum inside the pipe is as if the plane was flying 50 kilometers up. We often forget that human beings are bags of bones, organs, air pockets and liquids, and we kind of just jiggle our way around public transport. If there was a tiny tear in the pod, all of the air inside the pod would need to escape quickly to address the balance. There's a thing called barotrauma, which I initially thought only affected gardeners. Barotrauma is where the air pockets inside your body, they rupture. You will arrive bleeding from your ears, your nose, your lungs and your intestines. Yes, so thank you for allowing me to come to the company meeting today. There would be a huge amount of wind sucking all the air in the pod out. If you were sat near that tear, you would possibly be sucked out with it.
You have arrived at your destination. Please disembark the pod.
And the rest of the passengers are going to arrive with bleeding ears, which was also the name of my failed 90s all-girl group. Virgin have just done their first passenger test, so I got super excited. Oh wow, was it like a carriage full of journalists and influencers and celebrities? The pod is only built for 2 people. So it would be Richard Branson and who? Sir Richard Branson did not get in the Hyperloop. He's worth billions of pounds. 2 staff members rode the Hyperloop. How far did they go? They went 500 metres. I could walk that in heels. Did they then get out the pipe to champagne and celebrations? They went to the end of the pipe where there is no exit, so they had to winch the pod back again. two people effectively going nowhere is not public and it's not transport. Where you get on and get off at the same point, that is a ride. It's the sort of ride that your mum might go on if she's had a wee. How fast does it go? Well, apparently it reached a speed of 107 kilometers an hour. Your dad did that just trying to get here on time. What I found in researching this is that the Hyperloop has a lot of hype and no loop. The reason why it's called a Hyperloop is because it's called after what Elon Musk envisaged it would become. Elon Musk took this idea from sci-fi tropes, and he was the one who first suggested that this could actually become a viable method of transport. If you're going to call it after what it could become, there are a whole range of names you could have picked. Airless pod people pusher, blight on the landscape, pressurized human paste tube. I guess my thing with the Hyperloop is that I think it could be an amazing thing for the public, but the problem is I don't think it is built for the public. I don't think it's built for us, for normal people. I think it's built for these weird, futuristic, high-tech, strange people. It's for the aliens. The only reason why Elon Musk has proposed the Hyperloop is because with the pressurized pod, he doesn't have to put oxygen in it. He could put in any gas he likes. You could fill it with the sulfuric fumes that they're used to breathing on Venus. That's what the Hyperloop's for. And that way he's building a network so that his alien overlords can travel from city to city on Earth and establish their bases a lot quicker. Can I just say thank you to everyone who donates to me on the PayPal. If you want to support me and you're like, I'd love to support you, Di, but I don't have any cash, you are supporting me simply by watching this video, and I really appreciate it. Send this video to somebody else. Send a link to somebody who you know might like what I do. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye. Vacuumed collapsible commuter crusher. Pressurized human paste tube. Whizzy death can.